Hi, everybody. Welcome to Semo Faces. My name is Derek Charles, and Semo Faces is about sharing stories in our community, sharing the faces of our community. And I couldn't think of a better way to start Semo Faces than with these two faces right here. I am joined here with Renita Marie Green and Ramona Bailey. How are you?
Good.
Doing good.
Good. Thanks for having us on.
Absolutely, absolutely. Renita, you are a big part of our community. You have a brand new book that you just released. It's available right now on
Right now.
Amazon. And it's called This Little Light of Mine: How Love Healed the Trauma of Poverty, Racism, and Abuse. And you can get this paperback available right now on Amazon. Very cool.
Thank you.
Renita, I'd like you to tell us, how did you get here?
Spaceship.
I knew it. I knew it.
Oh boy, this has been a journey. Life is a series of journeys, and I'm grateful to be on this life journey. So, I was raised in a very racist home, where so there's a sociological concept that, of course, we did not know when we were kids. It's called learning to be white, and it's either by the carrot or the stick. So when you ascribe to the values of your home, you are rewarded, and when you don't, you are punished. And I didn't, and I was punished. And so this kind of resistor nature in me has always been, and it just didn't feel right. Being raised in church, my sense of spirituality, even at a young age, these messages did not connect. And so I consistently pushed back. I pushed back at home, I pushed back at school, I pushed back at church, and caused me a lot of pain and suffering, like literally being whipped till my legs bled, being ostracized, just, a variety. And so the rest of my life up to this point has been just a series of events that are very connected to growing up in poverty and abuse and all of that comes with that. What I know now as a more learned person is that statistically, when you grow up in poverty, you are subjected to different types of trauma. And what I also know now that I didn't know then is that poverty itself is a form of trauma, and that racism is a form of trauma, and the abuse in itself was a form of trauma. And so I have been able to heal by developing stronger relationships and purging my soul of the gunkiness, and writing. Writing has been reflective. It has been healing. Sometimes hearing myself say something, I have to go back and be like, is that really what you are saying there? And wow, I didn't know that was really in there, and just processing through that. So it's this piece actually is the prequel to a larger piece that will be released, depends on supposed to be released in August, but it'll probably be September. And that book will be called Unbecoming. And it is more of a historical trace of the history of racism in America and what it looks like played out in everyday life and how I have experienced and encountered. This work for me is healing, and it is empowering, and it is a gift that I think God has given me to become a better human and hopefully to shine light in the darkness that surrounds us. One of the places of healing for me has been to really understand that racism doesn't just hurt the victims of the venom, but it hurts those who are also bound by that ideology that has been ingrained in us since before we even knew right from wrong. I think when we get free, we'll all be free,
Right.
and we can heal more as a community and stop trying to fix other people when our own souls are the ones that really need to be healed. Do you want to add anything to that? Am I yakking?
Hi, Ramona Bailey. I love Renita. She came to us at St. James AME Church, I think in 2015, 16, something like that. It's only
15,
been like
15, yeah.
like 5 years that she's been here, and it's like she came and took us by storm, and I don't think God would have had it any other way. There was only one person who could come in here and do what needed to be done, and He sent her here, and I'm just very grateful for that.
Thank you. Love you.
Yes, you're definitely a light, a shining light to this community,
Thank you.
and a great asset, and an activist, and I have another question for you.
Okay.
What is the first step towards healing and closing the racial divide?
Yeah. In working in the movement toward anti-racism, and that's kind of really where I'm hovering my work these days, been doing a lot of work with a book by Ibram Kendi, which is called How to Be an Anti-Racist. And I love what Kendi says. He says that we're either racist or anti-racist. But the good news is that they are not, neither title is a tattoo that we wear, but it's a removable badge. And that we can exchange that in any situation. So we can totally blow it in one situation and redeem ourselves in the next. And the goal is that we get to more places where we are more consistently anti-racist, and that we recognize our racism, our racist responses, whether those responses are in our heart or those responses are in our actions. Sometimes we consider ourselves neutral, and that's like we're not in it. We're just going to stand back and watch it. But that in itself is a racist response, because the anti-racist response is challenging the racist action. So in just kind of my life experience, as I put this together with my faith, we can write gajillion books about this, but it really is boiled down to love your neighbor as yourself. Very simply, 1 John says that God is love, and the Gospel of John says that in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and the Word was made flesh and dwelt among us, so that the world would know love. I mean, that's really it, that the world would know. And so when we know, for those of us who believe that Jesus is the embodiment of God, then what we can translate that into is that Jesus is the embodiment of love. Jesus was love made flesh. And so what did love look like when love was on this earth? And what love did was challenge all of the religious establishment. Love challenged everything that hurt people who were in the least the position of the least amount of power and the least amount of influence. Jesus gave them the most amount of value. And what that teaches us is that it isn't our prominence that elevates us in God's eyes, but our humility. And when we see ourselves in relationship with people who are different than who we are, Jesus went to the margins with the people. He went to Zacchaeus' house. He went to the side of the road with blind Bartimaeus. He stopped for the woman who touched him. He sat with the woman at the well. He affirmed people that others rejected. Now, part of this love your neighbor as yourself means that I'm not fighting for Ramona. I'm fighting together, because we're one humankind. We stand together. And as long as people look at her crazy, they're looking at me crazy. As long as she's hurting, I'm hurting. When she's healed, then I'm healed. And we're intertwined. That's what Dr. King says, is that we're bound together, and inextricably bound together in a web of mutuality. And so whether we survive or whether we totally fail as a society will be to the degree that we are able to see each other in each other's eyes. And so whether, for me, that's racial healing or healing with anyone that people put in the margins, the people who are struggling with substance abuse, the people who are less desirable, whatever it is, we find all kinds of reasons to push people to the side. But love goes to those sides and says, as long as you're on the side, I'm on the side with you. And maybe we'll never be here in this main space. Maybe what we do is we create some new main space. And now we're in this new space, and everybody who isn't over here, they're in the margins. So that's what love does. Love says we're one. And we cannot love God whom we don't see when we don't love our neighbor that we do see. And love isn't about this, oh, I just love you with the love of the Lord, and, trying to, decide for you what's best for you. So we're talking about healing that racial divide. Part of why that racial divide is there is because white people are very paternalistic. And, we know what's best for you. We can create the plans for your community. We know how to educate your children. We know the best programs, summer programs. We know what your parks need. We know what your housing needs. We got it together. Well, we're a mess. We don't know. And what works for one person doesn't work for all. And people are individuals. And we have to stop lumping people together into one clump. We each have our own ideas and dreams and vision and created purpose. And when we're really loving each other, we're like, hey, we're doing this life thing together. Yeah,
Well, while we're on this point of healing, I heal through music. I know that's not going to solve the racial barrier, but I know it's going to help heal some of the trauma that has, happened here recently and years past. And so I decided to have a music kind of get together of people that I know don't really know all walks of life, different styles of music. I'm partial to R&B, jazz, gospel, but there's people that's not the music that they listen to for healing. So I figured, hey, we're just gonna all come together in a space where we can rejoice, lament, whatever, and that's going to actually be on the 4th of July here in Cape Girardeau at the band shell at like 5 o'clock in the evening. So once everybody's finished, maybe with their family things, everybody come out to Kappa Hall Park at the band shell at 5 o'clock and enjoy some music, and let's try to start healing somewhere.
Yeah. Part of healing also includes, I walk us through a 3-step process of confess, repent, transform. So we have to be able to say, I've been complicit. I've participated willingly or unwillingly in the pain of other people. And I really regret that I have played that role. And here's what I'm going to do differently. And when we can humble ourselves to confess, repent, transform, then that is a great act of love. And healing will be able to begin.
Yeah, we all definitely need to love thy neighbor, follow the example. We need to stand together. We need to grow together as a human race.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I have another question for you. We've kind of already touched on this, but I'd like you to do your best of explaining the All Lives Matter versus Black Lives Matter. This is a big controversy. We're seeing memes all over Facebook, Instagram. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, let's do. I'm really passionate about this, so I'm glad that we're talking about it. So I understand Black Lives Matter from different perspectives. So one perspective that I understand it from as a Christian, it is a confession. When I confess Black Lives Matter, then what that says is that I have not always made sure that Black lives mattered in spaces where they needed to matter. Now, I'm the mother of 2 Black children, and we would call them mixed, but they don't like that term. As a matter of fact, my children say that they are fully Black and half white. And when they were younger, I did not always believe them when they were being mistreated in school. I did not always believe them when they were being targeted. I did not always believe that the police pulled them over for no reason. I did not always believe that they were innocent of the things that they were being charged with. And that was that part of whiteness in me that was like, people just don't be mean to people just because. And it really, that hurt my children. And it caused them to not trust me in some areas. And we had to heal that. And so when I say Black Lives Matter, like, yeah, you know, they do matter. And so it's a confession and it's a declaration. The scripture says that whatever we loose in heaven is loosed on earth, and whatever we bind in heaven is bound on earth. And when we say Black Lives Matter as a spiritual declaration, what we are doing is we are binding those spirits that have for centuries oppressed people with darker skin from African descent, and we are loosing the spirit of righteousness and the spirit of equality and the spirit of equity. And so it's a confession, it is a declaration, and it is a celebration. It is absolutely a celebration. It is inauthentic to say, I don't see color. If I say I don't see color, I'm saying that I don't see what you bring in the essence of who you are, your culture, your values, your personality, all who you are. And I'm saying that there's something inherently wrong with God, because, you know, God, we're supposed to all be one, right? But when white people say, I don't see color, really what they're saying is, I see you as white. And, and that's, you know, not very helpful either, is it? So this whole, yes, you know, all lives matter, yes, but the system does not value the Black lives of people in our society. It has not valued, it was not constructed to value, because when the systems of America were formed, Black people were not even considered human fully. As a matter of fact, it really did not include much of women either, but that's a conversation for another day. So we are declaring that our systems have to change so that the value we hold in our heart is played out in our communities and our everyday life, and the injustices that are suffered by people who we love are brought to an end. You didn't even have to ask for it this time. I just stopped. How's that?
Well, you know, you summed it up, and a lot of people have been summing it up in different ways, you know, trying to give different analogies. You know, if your house is on fire and the fire truck comes down the street, and the other houses in the neighborhood, you don't want to spray all those houses, and you want to spray the one that's on fire. I mean, I think the analogies are so redundant that it's almost like, are you still not getting it, or you just don't want to get it? I think we're at the point now, some people just don't want to get it. They don't care. And I look at it like this. There's nobody on this planet can convince me that Jesus didn't die on the cross for me. And there's some people who feel that adamant about they're not going to change their minds about Black Lives Matter. You know, so hats off to you and your endeavors in the rest of your life. For the rest of us, you know, we're going to continue to shout that Black Lives Matter. And if we get to a point where we're finally saying all lives matter, then maybe that's because the Black lives are finally got into that group of all. Right. You know, when people saying all lives, it's like, yeah, we know all lives. Of course, nobody sets out, well, some people do, they're murderers, but nobody sets out to take someone's life just because it doesn't matter. We feel as people, as humans, everybody's life should matter, no matter what. And I found that out as even growing up in a Pentecostal church with, you know, the homosexual, all this different, you know, LGBTQ, that's the proper way, sorry, LGBTQ community. You know, I was taught wrong. And so as I've grown up, I realized that, I get that the all lives matter thing, but at this particular time, this point in time, this point in history, and we saw, the Supreme Court ruling for the LGBTQ community, I just thought that was, it gives me hope, we're striding along slowly but surely, we're getting there. But, some of the things, I don't think it should take a long time. I mean, it's clearly already been 400 something years, but I applaud the young people, the millennials,
Younger.
y'all ain't even younger than that. We would start to give y'all a bad name. But you guys turn it around. You guys are our hope. You are our future. And I as long as, like she said, we keep chanting Black Lives Matter. Maybe, and if that gets on your nerves when you hear somebody say Black Lives Matter and you go,
Not again.
yeah, not again.
Enough with that already.
That is your opportunity right there to question yourself. Why is that pricking my heart? Why do I not like hearing that? All lives matter. Ask yourself, and then don't just stop there. That thing is you're gonna talk with yourself about that. Why? If you talk with yourself about it and say, why does this bother me? Why don't I like hearing Black Lives Matter? Why am I tired of seeing the signs? Then there's something internal that you might want to reconsider and check out. Because believe it or not, whether you believe it or not, there is a heaven, there is hell, and if your heart's not right, if you got that thing in your heart where every time you hear Black Lives Matter, you want to roll your eyes, I would talk to my maker and see if he can get that thing out of my system before he takes us away.
And it's okay if I address one more thing. So one of the retorts that is often given is like, well, if Black Lives Matter, why do they keep killing each other? And that is so hurtful to hear. So I want to address that real quick. So I did a little statistical research in Missouri alone. So nobody says white on white crime. Nobody says Asian on Asian crime. It's always, what's black on black crime. So I don't call any of that, it's community crime. That's what it is. And people who live in community together are going to offend each other at higher rates, whether they are black and white, black and black, white and white, whatever that community makeup is. So community crime, crime and poverty are hand in glove. And the higher the poverty rate is in the community, the higher the crime rate is going to be in the community. So when we are in a community like Cape Girardeau, and the crime rate is higher in a particular section of our community, when the poverty rate is higher, then the crime rate is going to be higher. In the state of Missouri, it is very proportionate. Violent crime, black people against black people is about 80%, white people and white people is about 73%. That's not a huge difference, and it very much reflects the demographic of poverty, of impoverished people. So if we want to heal community crime, then we have to heal poverty. We have to address the issues of poverty. And we cannot say that black lives don't matter to black people because they kill each other, because white people kill each other too, but yet y'all still yelling all lives matter. If all lives really matter to you, then let's heal the poverty that is afflicting our entire community so that we can be made whole. That's the love your neighbor thing. It's love your neighbor when it doesn't benefit you directly because it benefits us collectively. And also with that, I say that there is such a spirit of fear and retaliation in our community. So people are afraid to tell who did it because they're going to be retaliated against. There are people who are afraid to speak up for racial justice because they're afraid of losing their jobs. There are people who are afraid to say that I've been impacted because they don't want to be that black person who's always playing the race card, which race is never a card game, by the way. And so to just remove ourselves from stigma and to protect ourselves, everyone is quiet. And so when noise starts being raised, now that there's pushback, it's like, oh my gosh, what's going on here? And it's only the noise that is being raised in our community now is really not even that noisy. It's just very different compared to the profound silence that we've been blanketed in. So I believe we just need to keep saying it. We need more voices, and we have to take it beyond a slogan and make it become policy and practice in every institutionalized part of our community.
Definitely do not be quiet. Make sure that your voice is heard. I would follow Renita for the People, her Facebook page. You are always sharing ways that the community can get involved, and definitely stand up and let's fight for what's right and work together, grow together. We are filming this on Juneteenth, so it's a very special day. And I want to go ahead and just briefly let's talk about what's behind us in this video, and that is the Confederate statue. That there are a lot of people in the community that would like to see the statue go away. If you don't mind, could I get your opinion about this?
Do I mind giving my opinion? Goodness. So I hear the people who are saying this is history, we can't remove history. And that baffles me. Native American genocide is part of our history, and there's no reservation in town. There's no big teepee that we can, go and stand in front of to make sure we never forget how we obliterated the natives who came before us. And so these monuments actually began being erected as Black people began pushing harder for equality and freedom. So these were not symbols that said, oh, we just want to remember our loved ones. These were symbols that said, ha ha, no matter what you do, we always win. And for this particular monument to sit in this space, and I realized that it was moved here, which, we weren't here when that happened. I wasn't here when that happened.
It was at the bridge.
It was at the bridge, which I don't even know what's more atrocious. But here it is in this space. And so you cannot get away from it. And so as a mother of Black children, a grandmother of a Black child, we come here and it's like, pow. Here is a symbol of your terror and trauma that you don't even get the choice whether you want to see or not. Whether you're ready for it emotionally, whether you're ready for... So now this whole public space is a symbol of terror and trauma, not to mention the fact that even though there are no gallows here, we know that this space is where enslaved people were auctioned. So now in this space where enslaved people were sold to the highest bidder, we have a monument to remember that terror and trauma? I mean, this does not seem authentic. It does not seem legitimate. Now, I read the mayor's position that if we start talking about taking away the Confederate monument, then it'll bring into question Ivers, the monument to the Union soldier, the enslaved person who risked his life and being to join to fight for his own freedom. That is an illegitimate argument. The only comparison that we can make with the Confederate monument would be to say it's like the swastika or like Hitler, having a statue of Hitler. That's the only comparison, or Saddam Hussein, because it stands for terror and trauma. There was no victory. There was no wonder, no beauty, they were such good people fighting for a good cause. Because if you think fighting for the right to continue owning human life was a good cause, then that's some hard work that really needs to be done, but we don't all need to be subjected to that messiness and that pain while y'all work that out. So if people need to remember dead people who fought to own live people, maybe that needs to go in a cemetery somewhere. It looks like a big headstone to me. Maybe it goes in a cemetery where dead things go, but not in the center of life. This is the center of life, and we need to remember that.
Absolutely. I mean, she's Renita, I hate to have to talk after this woman. She says it all. But I mean, as a person, I've lived in Cape pretty much my entire life. I don't remember seeing the monument when it was down by the bridge, but I know that it was there because we went back and forth across the bridge, but I didn't know of this, what it was or anything like that. But you know, all this, after we found out, it's like, well, why would they move it from down there and put it over here? You know, that just didn't make any sense. Like, is that what, you know, we have to continue to remember? I mean, nobody remembers who the boxer Rocky fought. You know, nobody celebrates who lost to Rocky. Who lost? We know Rocky, right? We know Rocky. We don't know who lost to Rocky. That doesn't, it doesn't, nobody celebrates. You know the guy who lost to Rocky? No. Nobody knows who that person is. But, okay, it's like, okay, you lost. I mean, if it means that much to some people, I'm pretty sure it does. Because we wouldn't be here in 2020 even having this discussion. It would have, as soon as they destroyed the bridge, that thing could have went right over into the river with it. But they didn't. They chose to bring it up here. So that's how much it means to some people. So this was how I would suggest, because it's coming down. I don't know how. I just feel that it is. But so come get a picture of it. Put it on your wall. You can blow it up as big as you want, and you can place it in your home, and you can always have those memories. But for us who live here in Cape Girardeau and we drive around these streets, we want to know that our city thinks that our lives matter and is not celebrating something that was such a traumatic experience that, I mean, we personally didn't go through, but we are still feeling the effects from. And this, having this statue here doesn't make it any better. It's just like, and to see it go away, I mean, that's part of healing. If you guys are really serious about what can I do to help, how can I be a part of this process, this is one of those things that has to go. It's not an option of should it, could it, why, this, that, history, that, and the other. Nobody remembers who lost to Rocky, you know. So just, if it means that much to you, come take a picture of it, put it in a picture in your house. But I think our city needs to act on this and hear the voices of the people and just act on it.
Yeah, hear the voices of the people who are traumatized by it, not hear the voices of the people who celebrate it.
Right.
And I think that's one place where our city really needs to grow, is to move beyond pulling people together in a space for the opportunity for them to talk with no intention of taking what's said and using what's said to shape how we move forward. We have to legitimately hear. We need to hear with our hearts. And quite frankly, even as passionate as I am about this, I really don't think that this is the space for white people to lead the conversation. I really believe that people who are most impacted by this monument or any other area of racial disparity, people who are impacted by that need to be leading the conversation on what it takes to be whole, what it takes to be well.
All right, we've got a truck going by right now, and we've lost our speaker, but basically, right now, if you're watching this video and you're thinking that this statue is a symbol of your Southern heritage, you need to look inside yourself, and this is where you need to grow as a person, as a human, and realize that this is a statue of hate, and that's what it symbolizes. And I want to thank you both for talking with me today on Semo Faces. If you would like to be a guest on Semo Faces and let your voice be heard, please message me on Facebook, Instagram, or semofaces@gmail.com. I'm going to close it off with a quote that was on your Facebook page.
Okay.
And that is, promote love of self, identity, culture, and humankind. Renita, thank you. Ramona, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching, everybody.
Thank you.
I'm Derek Charles with Semo Faces. Bye-bye.